everyone, it's Tara. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with my March wrap-up. March went decently well. I'm actually really impressed. I did not complete 3 books from my TBR. So I didn't complete A Stranger in the House, Timeline, or One by One by Ruth Ware. This Timeline and Ruth Ware or One by One were both picks from my TBR glasses, and so if I don't read books from my TBR glasses, I have to unhaul a book. So I need to unhaul 2 books, and I'm going to keep both of these because I'm not getting rid of this. This is a reread. I've read it before, and it's like a book that both John and I really like. So this is staying, and I do want to read Ruth Ware or One by One, so that is staying on my shelf as well. So I'm going to unhaul 2 books. So I'm going to unhaul Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. It's just not like reaching out to me anymore. And then I'm also going to unhaul The Paris Hours by Alex George. This I tried listening to a few months ago. I don't remember when. And like there was so much going on and it was jumping around so much that I ended up not like finishing the audiobook, and I just really haven't been like itching to pick it up since then physically. So that is that. Now let's get into the books that I actually read. So we're gonna get into it. So I'm gonna just do these in the order that I read them. I'll leave a list of all of these books down below, like I do every month. And I'm not going to go into too much of a synopsis of most of these just because there are a lot of books and I want to get through this quickly so this video isn't forever long. So first up, we have The Diviners by Libba Bray. I did this as a buddy read with my mom and I gave it 3.5 stars. I read a good chunk of this in February. This it wasn't bad. It wasn't my favorite either. So this follows Evie O'Neill. She's in New York City in the 1920s, which I loved that setting. I love like New York in the 1920s or like any big city in like that time period. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And she's living with her uncle who like studies like witches and like the occult and stuff like that. And there's like a series of murders that start happening, and Evie and her uncle and some of their friends like start like investigating it when the like police department asks for their help. So that's kind of the very basic premise of this. There were a lot of characters introduced into this book, and I feel like there was a lot of like storylines, or subplot lines that you were introduced to that you're like, why was this character introduced? Why was this plot line introduced? And I'm only assuming that they're all going to be important later on in the series, but right now it's kind of like, okay, great, like all this stuff happened and I don't really know why, because it wasn't like important to like the plot of this particular book. So my rating of this book could go up if the stuff that happened in this book that didn't pertain to the like plot of this book comes into play later on in the series. So I'm going to at least read the next one. And then if that one kind of does the same thing, I probably won't finish the series. So we'll see. But 3.5 stars from now. It could go up if more things are resolved later on in the series. Then I read El Defo by CeCe Bell. I gave this 4 stars. This is a graphic memoir. I'm pretty sure it's a graphic memoir. Like it's about her life. This is a middle grade book. I read it for middle grade March, or graphic novel, whatever. And I thought it was really cute. So you're following CeCe, who gets sick and like as a result of that sickness ends up like deaf. And so she has to wear a hearing aid, and she like goes to school, and she's kind of like embarrassed or shy about the fact that she's wearing a hearing aid, and she has this like alter ego, El Defo, that kind of like helps her through things. And I just thought it was a really cute book with really great like disability rep, and gave, you know, was a way to like give like some more like self-confidence and self-esteem to young readers who might have their own, you know, disability that they're struggling with. So really cute. Then John and I finally finished Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I gave this 4.5 stars. It took us like 2 months to read it, so it was like very spread out, and so it was hard for me. I don't want to say it was hard. It was harder than normal for me to like keep track of what was going on. But it was a reread for me, and I really enjoy this book and this series. We're currently reading listening to The Well of Ascension right now. Basically, if you don't know what this is about, you're basically following like a gang of like thieves and criminals, if you will, that are trying to overthrow the like ruler of their world. I don't want to say it's their world, but their like area. And Vin, who is a young Mistborn, kind of gets recruited to join this gang, and she, you know, does her thing. And I really enjoy Vin as a character. I like that she's, you know, this like strong female amongst all of these like strong male personalities. So yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. And I knew I would because it was a reread. So yeah. Then I read, a book that I don't have. I read The Bookshop on the Corner by Jenny Colgan. I gave that 4.5 stars as well. I don't have my like book journal here to like review my notes, but what is the main character's name? I can't remember. It starts with an N. I don't remember. I'll put it here. She decides to like, basically she doesn't get fired, but her job basically becomes obsolete. And so she decides to like follow her dream, and she buys a like van or a truck, and she decides she's going to have like a traveling bookshop, which I think sounds like the best job in the world. And she basically moves, I think is she in London? I don't know. She's in like a bigger city and moves to a smaller like town to like do this. And she, you know, she ends up being more like successful than she thought she would be. And you just kind of follow her starting this bookshop and like moving to this new town and everything that ensues after that. So it was really good. I enjoyed reading her journey. There is a romance type thing. I don't want to say it was like a like hardcore romance, but there is like a love interest that she has, and I enjoyed that. Saw that coming from like a mile away, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good. I'm like, this is like the worst wrap up ever. I'm sorry. Then I read My Gal Sunday by Mary Higgins Clark. I gave this 4 stars. So this is a collection of short stories that follow Henry Parker Britland and his wife Sunday. So Henry was the president, and he is like, you know, done with his term. And so he's retired, if you will. And then his wife Sunday is a politician, a senator. Congress, it just says. And you're following them. There's like 3 or 4 short stories. I don't remember how many are there. There's 4 short stories in here. And they're good. I liked Henry and Sunday, that duo, but I don't like them as much as Elvira and Willie. I'll say that. I enjoyed them, but I like Elvira and Willie more. I don't know if like, she has more books that follow Henry and Sunday. Like, Elvira and Willie, there's, like, the short stories that I read in January, and then they appear in other, like, full-length novels of Mary Higgins Clark. I don't know if Henry and Sunday do. I'll have to research that and let you know. But they were really, like, quick stories to read. You have one's, like, set at Christmas, one's on, like, a boat, one is, like, Sunday gets kidnapped, and the other one follows, like, their secretary of, like, Henry Parker's, like, Secretary of State or something. Like, he had, like, an office in the cabinet, which, Secretary of State. So, yeah, that was that. Then I read my favorite book of the month. It's a contender for, like, favorite book of the year. I loved it. It's Confessions of a Domestic Failure by Bunmi Laditan. I don't know how to say her last name. But Buddy read this with Danny at Spinelli Speaks. She had, like, told me, I don't know, either very early this year or, like, late last year. She's like, I think you'd really enjoy this book, and if you want to buddy read it, like, let me know. And so I was like, yeah, sure, let's buddy read it. I cannot thank Danny enough for this recommendation. It was amazing. And it's probably a case of, like, this was the right book at the right time, because it follows a new mom. I think her name is Ashley. I don't own this book. I want to, but I don't own it. And she is, like, she's a new mom. She ended up, like, getting laid off from her job while on maternity leave. So she's, like, now a stay-at-home mom. She's kind of, like, she seems like she's kind of, like, bored, kind of missing the social life that work brought her. But she's, like, she loves being a mom, and she loves her, like, I think when the book starts, her daughter is, like, 6 months old. Loves it, but she's struggling to, you know, balance, like, taking care of the baby and getting stuff done around the house and, like, taking showers and just finding time to do everything. And on top of that, she has a hard time because she's comparing herself a lot to, like people that she knew in high school or college that are posting pictures on social media, and they, like, appear to be, like, the perfect mom and have the perfect life and all of that. And so she's kind of trying to live up to these unrealistic expectations, and so she feels like a failure when she can't. And she follows this, like, celebrity on social media who appears to have this, like, perfect life, and this celebrity is like a blogger mom who has, like, a TV show, like, oh, let me, like, help you be, like, the best mom ever. And this celebrity ends up putting on, like, a mommy boot camp, and she ends up being selected to, like, participate in this. And it just, like, follows her competing in this competition, and it is, like, laugh out loud funny. I busted out laughing so many times, but it's super relatable, especially for me as a new mom myself, and I loved it. It was funny, it was, like, relatable, realistic. Loved it. So thanks, Danny. Then I read The One and Only Ivan by Katherine Applegate, another middle grade that I read for middle grade March. This also got 5 stars. This book made me cry. I don't know what it is about middle grade, but middle grade can make me cry, like, more than adult books can. So sweet. So this follows Ivan, who is a gorilla who is living in captivity at this, like, mall circus thing. I don't really know what the concept was, but he's living in captivity. And there's, like, other animals there too, and this, like, new baby elephant comes and joins this, like, circus mall thing, and Ivan becomes determined to help this baby elephant, like, leave captivity because he doesn't want her to have, like, a sad life. And it was so heartwarming. You fall in love with the animals that are, like, there, Ivan and his friends. And I thought it was a very interesting, like, commentary on animals that are, like in captivity and not treated the way that they should be. Like, and I'm not saying, like, I'm not saying anything. I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying something bad about zoos, because I feel like zoos like are great for the most part when they are accredited and doing what they should do. But like other, you know, like things like SeaWorld, and where like the animals are like on display being forced to perform tricks and stuff, which is what's happening in this book, and how we need to treat animals better. So hope that makes sense. I am a huge fan of zoos. I love zoos when they are doing what they are supposed to do, because you do hear like horror stories of bad things happening at zoos, but for the most part, all of the zoos that I've gone to have done nothing but great things, and I love them. But yeah, anyways. Then I read The Dollhouse by Fiona Davis. I gave this 4 stars. This is a historical fiction. It follows Darby, who she lived in the Barbizon Hotel in New York City in the early 50s, and like lived there. She moved there in the 50s and has lived there ever since. And then you have what was the timeline. Why can't I remember? It starts with an R, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Rose. Then you follow Rose, you follow both Darby and Rose, but then you have Rose in like present day, or like 2016. She lives in what used to be the Barbizon Hotel, where Darby still lives, and she's a journalist, and she like runs into Darby in the lobby of their hotel, or their house, their apartment complex, whatever, one day, and just becomes intrigued by Darby and her story, and decides to write an article about her. So she ends up like delving into like the Barbizon history and Darby's history, and so you get like the alternating timelines. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed Darby's story and like timeline more. I was super intrigued because Darby, like, first of all, I don't know a lot about like 1950s like the history and like the culture and what was going on at that time. I mean, I know some stuff, but I just feel like in school you have so much focus on World War II, and then you kind of like glaze over things until you get to like the Vietnam War. So there's like a time like between the two the two wars that like you don't really learn a lot about. And so reading about the 1950s and like the cultural expectations of women in that time period was really interesting to me. I didn't mind Rose's timeline. It was fine, like the present day time and how it like tied back to Darby, but I was way more invested in the 1950s timeline. And there's almost like a mystery element, because something comes up, and I don't want to like say too much. Something comes up in Darby's past that you're kind of like that, like Rose is like, what happened? And so she's trying to figure out what it is, like what the story is there. And it was very interesting. And so I like that like mystery element in this historical fiction book. So I enjoyed it. Then I read The Love Square by Laura Jane Williams. I gave that 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed that. I don't have that physically either, unfortunately. It's a like brand new book. I think it just came out in February. I read it because Chloe had always read it and enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it too. This follows Penny, I think her name is. And she owns a like cafe, and she meets this guy, and like they start like seeing each other, and they have like a really great relationship until she kind of makes a decision to go and help her uncle, who lives in like a different town, like far enough away, that she has to like relocate to help him out, because he owns a restaurant and is having a hard time like taking care of it with some like health issues that he has. And so I want to say, I'm pretty sure her name's Penny. So she decides to kind of have her have one of her employees kind of run her cafe, and she's going to go take care of this restaurant. And she ends up like deciding to call off the the new relationship that she's in. And she's having some second thoughts about calling this off. And then she decides she wants to maybe like try and keep things going. And she sees this guy do something. She's like, nope, I'm done. Like, what was I thinking? Like, nope, it's a good thing I'm leaving. And then she ends up meeting like 2 more guys when she moves that she's kind of like interested in. And so she gets in a love square because there's 3 guys in her. So it's a square. And she kind of has to choose between one of these 3 guys. And I feel like the entire book, you kind of could see where it was going, but it was fun reading about everything like leading up to it. I feel like this book could have been a 5-star read for me, except like right at the end, she started to really annoy me because she was not being great at communicating her thoughts and her feelings with these guys. And she even says, I'm being like really bad at communicating, and like why did I say that, and why didn't I say this? And you were kind of like, yeah, why didn't you? So it got a little bit annoying. That kind of bothered me a little bit, but it was a really good book overall. I really enjoyed it. And like there was a little bit of like sexy time, like maybe a little bit too much than I would like, but it wasn't like in your face all the time, I don't think. It was not enough to like turn me off from reading it, but maybe a little bit more than I would have liked. But I don't like a ton of that, so it doesn't take a lot for me to be like, there's too much. But I mean, it was a pretty good book overall. Then I read The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane by Kate DiCamillo. I gave this 4 stars. I enjoyed it. It was good, cute. I'll probably read it to little man in the future. Technically I read it to him this time, but he's not going to remember that. You basically follow a China rabbit, Edward Tulane, who is owned by Abilene, I believe is how you say it. And he ends up going on a journey. And you basically follow him throughout his entire life. And he's a toy, so his life is pretty long. And I thought the concept of like following a toy from like, you know, its existence, or when, you know, whenever the time starts, to like what happens to this toy if it gets lost, or it gets, you know, forgotten about, or things like that. I thought that was interesting, because it's interesting to think about, you know, like if toys had brains and feelings and things like that, like what would they think when we stop playing with them, or when it gets misplaced at the mall or an airport or something like that? Like what would happen? Like what would these toys think? It was kind of like a book version of Toy Story, kind of, I guess. But it was like an interesting concept and idea, and I enjoyed it. It just wasn't my favorite middle grade that I've ever read, but I didn't hate it. I really enjoyed it. I just, especially after reading The One and Only Ivan earlier in the month, and that was a 5-star read, like I did not enjoy this as much as I enjoyed The One and Only Ivan. So yeah. Then I listened to For Better and Worse by Margot Hunt. I gave this 4 stars. I really, really, really enjoyed this audio. I'm glad I picked it up without telling you too much, because it has like, I don't want to say it's a mystery. It's more like a thriller, like family drama type thing almost. I don't even know if I would consider it a thriller. I don't know what I would consider this. It was good. So you follow Natalie and Will Clark. They are 2 lawyers. They met in law school. And like their first date, they have this conversation about like whether or not they think they could commit the perfect crime. And then you flash forward, like I think it was like 17 years into the future to like present day time, and they are now married and they have an 11-year-old son. And you like, Natalie kind of feels like she's like, there's something not right in like our marriage. I don't know if it's just stagnant or if Will's cheating on me. I don't know what's going on, but like she's like, I don't know if I'm happy. Like I'm kind of like, things are kind of stagnant. And then they find out something that happens to someone in their personal life. And that kind of like throws their already kind of like stagnant, stale relationship like for a loop. And it is interesting. I really, really enjoyed it. The first like half of the book, you kind of follow more of Natalie's perspective, and then there's like a part 2 where you have Will's perspective, and then you kind of at the very end go back to Natalie's perspective, which I liked those 2 shifts, and I think you needed those shifts to see kind of what happens, because the end of part 1, you're like, what just happened? And you needed Will's perspective. But it was really good. Really good. There's not a mystery. Like, you know what happens the entire time. I don't know if I would consider it a thriller, but it's like, it's more thrill. It's like a thriller or like family drama type thing, but really good. I really enjoyed it. Then the book that I finished technically on April 1st was The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. This is like a 4.5, maybe 5-star read. I haven't really settled on a rating, and it is like April 10th right now. I think, I still have a bookmark in here. I think it's somewhere between 4.5 and 5 stars. I mean, everyone on BookTube has like talked about this. You follow Carly Sears. It's 1970. She has just like, she's a widow. She just found out she's a Vietnam like war widow who found out she was pregnant. Like, her husband goes to Vietnam, like is killed like 2 weeks after like getting to Vietnam, and then she finds out she's pregnant, like right, like it all happens all at once. And so she then goes to like a doctor's appointment to check on the baby, and she finds out that there's something wrong with the baby's heart, and she's devastated. She's like I just lost my husband, and now you're telling me I'm going to lose my daughter too. And then her brother-in-law approaches her and is like, hey, I have a way to help you, but you're going to have to travel to 2001 to get the help that you need. And she's like, what, are you crazy? Like, time travel is not a thing. I can't travel to 2001. But she does, and things happen, and yeah, it was really good. Like, I read it really slowly, and I don't know why, like, other than there's just other stuff going on, but I really, really, really enjoyed it. And like, there were some twists and some turns that I didn't see coming that I really, really enjoyed. I loved Carly and like how dedicated she is as a mom, and how she's like, I am not going to lose this daughter, like my daughter, and I'm going to do whatever I need to like make sure that doesn't happen, because this is the only like part of my husband that I have left, because he's gone. So really, it was a really sweet story, and I loved that there was like this time travel, like more like sci-fi element to it, but the time travel, it's a very important part of the story, but it doesn't get too sciencey. It's not like this the main focus. The main focus is on Carly and her relationship with her daughter, and getting like, and making sure that like she can stay with her daughter and her daughter survives. But there is time travel, but it's not like super sciencey, which is one of the problems that I have with sci-fi novels, is there's a lot of science, and science was another thing that I'm not good at and I don't like reading about. So I really enjoyed it. So we are at 31 minutes this video. So I'm gonna wrap this up so that you don't have to sit here much longer. So those are the 12 books that I read in March. Let me know how your March was. I have probably watched most of y'all's wrap-ups by now, because most of you guys are way better at getting them out in a timely manner than I have. But if you don't have a BookTube channel, let me know, what books did you read this month? Have you read any of the books I read? If so, what did you think of them? Let me know down below. That is it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy reading. Bye!